each different bubble of reality is true.
A galactic historian is a person that looks at all the lines of dramatic karma.
Nudge, nudge. It's the Holy Grail.
Improvise. Mysterious.
It's counter psychic intelligence.
Why is DNA farming of this star cluster so important?
Because we do manifest our reality. We do create our reality.
Now, back to trust. So, faith is a form of trust. So I want you to riff on faith and trust for a little bit.
Faith, because I didn't come from a Christian religious sort of background, I'll associate with belief if you want. And to me, belief is giving yourself the information that wasn't via your own experience, if that makes sense. So it's accepting information that has not come about by your own experience. So faith is accepting something that has been sort of said that wasn't something I was present for, if that makes sense. But because it's accepted, I take it on board as a possibility, or more than a possibility, if that makes sense.
So in my perception, faith is our direct link to the universal wisdom of knowingness. And it is our legacy. Faith reminds us that we are no more than we've heard, read, or studied, ever. We've all had those moments. I am more than I've heard, read, or studied. That's what the thymus is supposed to do, is to get you out of that innocence of young growth and into the adult growth. Someone who's going to take on some responsibility of this DNA skin suit. So if you come with filters that are trauma and abuse and ignore them the majority of your life, you have followed the ancestral curse or lineage lesson over and over and over again. Now, because our society changed so fast, it's not even been a full 100 years since indoor flushing was common worldwide. 120 years ago, because it's 2018 now, the horse was 97% of the travel, because railroads had gone coast to coast, but it was still a horse that did worldwide everything. It really wasn't into the 1930s that the horses were even removed from the military.
Yep.
Okay, before true mechanized infantry came. So that's our everything changed so fast, and there's no new individuated culture that isn't a part of the global narrative now. The global narrative is taking myth and trust and faith, and it's harvesting it.
Yep.
If we see faith as our direct link to the universal wisdom that is there as knowingness, faith will always remind you you're more than you've heard, read, or studied. Faith reminds us we only have to look, listen, and trust the love and wisdom of that universal spirit working through us all. Faith does not require a belief in a religion. By learning to trust the love and intelligence working through you and all of creation. That is the essence of faith. It requires high levels of personal trust in the self. Sympathetic, parasympathetic. But when you have full trust in the sympathetic and learn to have full trust in the parasympathetic, you are the God source being.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I sort of said I play with the shadow, because there's so many variables at play, like we've talked about the solar system and the frequencies of Earth, and I don't know, since in the last 2 months there was massive solar action, a lot of earthquakes and stuff like that, and all these things are constantly in flux, constantly happening. And
sure, but we long bout of no sunspots and no solar activity, like 85 days.
Yeah, all I'm just saying is how I'm sort of applying all the things that I can sort of perceive to challenge myself constantly, to see where I'm at, to see where my parasympathetic is.
Okay, so let me you do muscle testing, right?
I don't, but I can sort of sense. I don't even need to move my muscles. I just know, if that makes sense. But go for it.
Whatever discernment technique you want to use, and this applies for anyone listening. Any discernment technique out there. All right. So just hear these as a statement, and as your body, we're going to do what's called a litmus test. Okay. Is it balanced, pH balanced to it, or is it acidic to it? Okay?
Yep.
A newfound trust will transform your perception and experience. That is when the God source being who has come to understand the steering wheel of the sympathetic and the engine of the parasympathetic. The engine of the belief is run through the parasympathetic, and is in the central vein and artery is the vagus nerve. Now, opposite, how we take control of our sympathetic is through self-healing, self-nurturing, self-love, and ceremonial expressions that connect us and interconnect us to connectivity. Connected is one thing, connected to the self, to feel I'm in the body, connected to the nature around me. Yes, finally I'm feeling a form of oneness, and then interconnected, many forms of oneness, and then interconnectivity, all forms of oneness for the God source being who is learning to ride the motorcycle of belief engine, who's learned to trust. If you've ever rode motorcycles, what gets you into trust of how to ride a motorcycle is trusting your tires.
Yeah.
If you do not trust your tires, you will fall and hurt yourself over and over again.
Yeah. Because you need to have the speed to have the momentum to have the tires work. Otherwise, you won't be going fast enough. Yeah.
Right. And the same thing applies to riding the engine of our beliefs. Now, here's an example. Every day you wake up, you know the sun is going to rise. You trust and believe in that.
Yep.
Now we have a group of people, a bunch of very sore, mediocre people calling flat Earth that the sun doesn't rise. Okay? So here's why I equivocally say, flat Earthers, you guys need to grow up. You're suffering from a mind virus. And the only way for you to get out of it is to stop believing it. That is the only way to cure or immunize yourself to the mind virus.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Forgive yourself. It's okay. You still learn something from it. How not to be gone.
How about this clickbait, mate? All right? It's okay to be wrong.
Okay.
You can admit your fault. There's no wrong with, and it's bravery admitting that you're wrong.
Yeah, that's one level, but accepting it over days, weeks, months, and years, that's where most fall back to the plateau and go back to the enlightenment trap. Like, here's an example. I've opened this new healing retreat center here in Barbados, and we've run a bunch of people through it, and I did documentary videos, ran a bunch of people through it when I was in Seattle. And we're at a point now where there's a separation of densities because we're put a call out for those who truly want to go and do vision quests without the medicines. It's a service that just isn't there in our communities because so few people know how to hold the space or to engage existing technologies to make that a repeatable experience, literally repeatable. And their bodies fight against it days ahead of time, sometimes months ahead of time. And then they get there and they have these healing crises and meltdowns. No, I can go no further. Their reality is cracked so much because they've learned to trust an environment, trust the people that they were with, trust the spirit that was there, and then try to trust their own energy enough to ride the motorcycle just a little bit. Let's say while they're in a flotation tank or in a deep meditation or doing yoga to start the day or whatever it is, the package that we're putting together for them, which is designed as an immersion-based healing to give you the no-drug mystical experience that is repeatable day after day after day. Have these meltdowns, full-on meltdowns, because they can go no further until they confront that program.
Yeah.
That's why we developed the whole teachings to create the spiritual container. That is inevitably going to happen, and it's okay.
Mm.
Now, as practitioners, you can't take it on. You can take none of it personally. We created this space to do this. Now, you get these flippant people that say that they're going to come for 7 days. They arrive, and they can't arrive early or on time. They're 45 minutes late every time.
Yeah.
What does that say? And we don't start till like 10 o'clock in the morning.
It's programs of self-defeat.
Exactly. Programs of self-defeat. Now, people come to have the experience or the healing or the reduction or the change in life force because we have a tremendous amount of people who just come because their quality of life has been so reduced because of an ailment, a sickness, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And we can invigorate their faith and their trust in themselves and their environment and send them home with skill sets to change their environment, to deal with their long-term illness.
But do they do it?
Now, from my experience, through running the system and through my own personal healings, private sessions, and public sessions, those that are truly dedicated, committed, and have courage beat it every time. Okay? But it is a journey into that commitment, courage, and self-love. Now, there are times that people survive it and they're butchered. And that's where a part of their I amness goes away. It's been deleted. Let's say you had a cancer patient that had an arm removed, or a diabetes patient who lost a limb or was in long-term coma and came back and just isn't the same person.
Yeah.
Or it was in a car accident and they had a traumatic brain injury and they're just not who they were. And they want to get that back. And those, if they understand the recipe to wellness and get over the many levels of instant gratification in healing, healing is a long process, not an event. There are events in it that are gigantic, but we can't rely on them as the only ones. They're there to inspire you to have the next level of accepting this and surrendering to it. This is where we're offering medicine journeys for those that are truly on the path of wanting to heal.
Yeah.
It's for everyone right in the beginning to jump and do. There's preparations that need to be done. That's why we offer whole coaching systems.
Yeah, one of the sort of things I'm wanting to put together at some stage is about pilgrimage and stuff.
Well, that's what we do with our system here on the island of Barbados, is to get people to go through 90 days of preparatory coaching, to come here to go through the system as a vision quest, as a healing, as a mystical experience, and to learn how to let go of the laws of expectation.
Yeah.
How to send treatments forward in time to yourself before you even get here.
But the whole idea of pilgrimage is, it's not just like a work up to the last minute, then you've got 2 weeks off and then you're going somewhere to get away from your life and then come back. It's all about, you set yourself up before you go, so you're ready before you go. You do it like the mind, body, heart sort of thing, like you get the body ready, you do the detoxing, and you set your mind up for what you're going to go through. And to me, mate, I learned this a long time ago, like learning meditation and stuff. People go to a meditation class, they want to have a gap in their lives and then they go back to their normal lives. For me, it was, why would I want to go back to that if I can experience this? Why not just live it? I had the experience, I know it's possible. Why not just live it all the time? And you know what I mean? Like integrate it into who I am, and then what happens to my life if I have it as a foundational component rather than something I'm trying to just have a gap to in what I was doing. So to me that was obvious, but it's taken me a long journey and a lot of experience, a lot of interactions with people that have had blowbacks that have led me to realize that most people don't seem to want that. It's funny. It's just very funny.
But that's when the sympathetic is running the body And oftentimes that sympathetic that's running the body doesn't even know that it is a puppet to the parasympathetic, because it's still the parasympathetic doling out all of the deja vus, all of the dreams that you're going to actually remember. So many people tell me I can't remember their dreams. And I go, well, I don't say this to them, most of them, but it's because your parasympathetic is running you, determining, adapting, whatever the hell it wants. Because it believes it's the experience, not you. It believes you're just an aspect of the sympathetic, willy-nilly through the world, wanting this and that like a little child.
There's one thing you said earlier which I want to go back to because now I caught up. It was, you said you have a lot of people saying you want to connect to your guides and stuff like that, and they're wanting you to sort of bring it about. And before you get into it, I'll just say how I feel. And many of the things Andrew's talking about here, I still have the challenges with, like remembering dream time and stuff like that. But the thing I feel I've got is I accept where I'm at. But the thing is, I know I accept myself as a multidimensional, infinite being, and everything is accessible to me. But the thing is, I've got filters going on with me, and why do I only accept what I can perceive? I've also got a thing in me that I'm okay with it all. I'm not, I don't have some carrot on a hook wanting something other than
trust.
who I am. Trust. Yeah.
You have trust in spirit working with everyone else.
Yeah, because the thing is, I've got this different, I won't call it a program, but a perception that everything is there accessible to me, that I am where I'm at, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I can still access it if I want to really dedicate myself and focus to it, but I'm okay where I'm at. I'm not seeking something other than what I am at. If that makes sense.
Equal to your level of awareness.
Yeah.
So many people want to access, one of the things I was in when I was in Egypt, I had some people asking me questions left and right, and somebody asked it something, can you teach us the many secrets of this or this God or that God? And I go, it's not like a spiritual Tinder, just, bring up the God and say, hey, can you give me all your source codes? But a lot of people don't realize that the metaphor of a spiritual Tinder, when it comes to working with higher frequency beings, it's not a spiritual Tinder, but their actions become that. They don't say, hello, God. Hey, it's been thousands of years since I communicated to you. Hey, let's start a correspondence. Text each other. Not just, hey, give me your booby shot.
But what I'm sort of suggesting how I interact is I feel that there's a big gap in that. And what a lot of people feel is that there's some talent that's out there that they don't know, they don't think they have, or they don't know how to get, or they've accepted that it isn't for them. When in actual fact, everything is available to everyone all the time, but it's an attitude shift. And say, it's very subtle, but it's very important, because most people think they aren't what they are. So they create their own patterns of self-defeat, which implement the limits,
It actually broadcasts the reality itself limitation.
Yeah, don't give me this. It's like, I can't get it? Okay, so you can't get it? We'll not give it to you.
Exactly. That's creating it all. You're manifesting your reality.
Yeah, it's like, you can't get us? All right. We are broadcasting loud, but you're just not tuning in. So we'll not give it to you. You've got to go through a life, or many lives, of not actually having it. When you go and have your review and you realize, oh shit, I did have it, but I believed I didn't.
Right. Now, faith and trust are that exact expression of what you're doing. When you trust in your faith that the Spirit is working through me, I may not understand what it is, but I'm okay with where I'm at. I am not a sheet in the wind. I am firm and stable and using the wind to propel me forward, and all the other elements of life.
Yeah, because, say, me being around Andrew a lot, right, I can sort of measure myself against him, and it's like, at the moment, what I do, there's no competition, and I'm not saying I want to compete, but there's no point. But say, from my attitude of all the skill sets I see, I have, and what the variables are out there, there is a gap with the level Andrew works at, the volume he's done, and how much people can consume. So for me, I see that as my personal leadership at the moment of what I can do to help facilitate the reality the best I can. And Andrew's given me the trust because you know my program, you know my variables in that, because you see the gap, but you actually need help. It's like, you've done 1,600 hours. It's what else can you do? People aren't totally getting it, and they can only, we look at sort of like the analytics in Google and stuff to see how long people are watching, and if I do an hour and 20-minute video, people can only absorb maybe 20 minutes of it. So if you're out there and you're absorbing more than 20 minutes of a show, then you're doing really, really well.
Right.
But the thing
and
is,
if we look at the analytics of a lot of my shows, for a long time we were 30 and 40 minutes average view time. Now that's still the instant gratification for the energy.
Yeah.
As many of them weren't getting any of the show, but the transmission itself completed a circuit in them for 2 hours, and that's great. They came for a view, and they like the material, and those that want to go to the next level they'll do it. It is only action brings them to life, and that's for everyone out there. Many of us understand concepts such as commitment, courage, and love, but we truly only know what we can do. Doing leads to understanding, and action turns knowledge into wisdom. It is the action of actions that brings us into this expansion of the field of information around you. Action teaches us to overcome both inertia and impatience by acting on our courage, clear intentions, and commitment. And each action for every action or inaction contains the seeds of its opposite. Okay? That is a metaphor for how the sympathetic and parasympathetic can make it a stop, go, stop, go, stop, go, 10 steps forward, 90 steps back, 10 steps forward, 200 steps back, and a year later you're 1,000 steps back, but you've still gone somewhat forward. You've expanded your frequency a little bit. So you must learn to ride that motorcycle into the membrane that's going to try like a big rubber band to not let you go any further, more resistance. Do you have enough inertia in your actions to overcome your internal impatience?
Yeah, I'll tell you one of my attitudes of what I'm trying to provide people with Andrew's stuff that he's allowing me to create videos for is, and this is where I've sort of measured myself if I was going to speak into a lecture and stuff, is I'm not actually targeting your consciousness. I'm actually targeting your body to give you a download, so you have all the data in your like skeletal cellular memory where you can actually get the confirmations yourself. Once you get to this appreciation and trust in yourself, because what will happen is, like people, what I've learned for myself, mate, and you can probably get into this, is the mystical doesn't really feel too mystical. It's just the knowingness, and it's actually very easy, and it's so subtle. It's that acceptance of data that it's okay. The coast is clear. I can absorb this, and this subtlety feels really nurturing and right. And I mean, that's for me. I don't get fireworks. It's just I get on with it. It's like this is data that's truth from my perspective, and I accept it as a building block from my understanding of what's going on. So what I've done is just condense that to hopefully give people a fast track, and once they get past that qualification process and they can absorb it, it'll get downloaded into their cellular memory, and then they'll get their perceptions going organically in themselves without the training wheels of Andrew Bartzis.
That's right. And that's what I'm trying to teach through Living the Mystical Life Daily, the 6-week online course, and through the contract revocations. You're the one that's got to do it. It's your out loud name it to claim it world, not mine.
Yeah. And the big thing you've said is you've got to do it in joy.
Right.
Like
got to do it in joy.
Yeah.
And that's what this leads me into the next transition. What is prayer? Because prayer is another form of trust.
Well, I've actually made a video by Greg Braden called "Feeling is Prayer." Mm-hmm. So the feeling state to me is what prayer is, and what state is that? It's realizing I can actually choose the feelings I want, not be a reactional sort of thing to the reality around me.
Right.
So my feeling state, I'll say this, we've done drugs in society. I've had ecstasy, and I can tune back into that, and it's pretty much the highlight of being in the state of love. You know, it's not something I want to do and want to escape from. It's just I do recall that sort of really joyful feeling, and it's really interesting because I've spent a week making Drugs in Society Part 4 and 5, which are about pharmacology. And Andrew, with Annette O'Toole, has gone pretty deep because Annette's had experience being addicted to opiates and stuff like that. And she was a good anchor for that. And Andrew gets into the history of a lot of the drugs taken away from our society that the indigenous consume, like sacred plant medicines that put the tribes into states of joy when they were in full ceremonial mode, very special times, you know. So getting back to the prayer thing, I try and occupy the best emotional state all the time.
Yeah, here's another way of saying exactly what you just said. Prayer is a process of finding strength, wisdom, and knowingness of the internal, eternal being you know you are. Prayer is how you make higher frequency friendships, thus spirit guides. Okay? How to understand that the universal source is working through us all. Prayer doesn't religion or an esoteric system. Prayer words can be no words or thousands of words. Prayer is also a form of gratitude and love expressed for the divine co-creative self who is manifesting a life walk that has unknown and known factors to us. Prayer helps us at making the unknown known by showing us how to get rid of fear or any other process or program that limits our ability to believe in our own self. Prayer is finding the integrity of heart space truth, the true emanating of unconditional love, and the expressions of vibratory words, artworks, to convey the essence of what the I am to all that there is, was, and ever will be. Knowing that there is a totality of experience out there, oneness. Prayer and faith is showing us that we do not live in a world of duality, that if you believe it then in that prayer, it'll become your reality.
Each different bubble of reality is true.
A galactic historian is a person that looks at all the lines of dramatic karma.
Nudge, nudge. It's the Holy Grail.
Improvised. Mysterious. It's counter psychic intelligence.
Why is DNA farming of this star cluster so important?
Because we do manifest our reality. We do create our reality.